we are going to see GUI access of Commando Soldier C3000 L3 aggregation and access series modular routing switch. Let's start. The access IP will be 192.168.0.1. Login into the device with username admin and password commando in small case. You can see by system information as well as some buttons on right hand side like save, logout, reboot and debug. So let's start with save button. This save button will save the running configuration to startup configuration. So if any power failure or rebooting of the device, your configuration will not be lost. Logout means end access to Commando switch on web GUI. Login out inform the Commando switch that the current user wishes to end the login sessions. Then reboot. With this reboot, we can restart or boot the switch again. Commando switch is forced by this reboot to power off and immediately power on. This command forcefully restarting the switch again. Then debug messages. Debug is used to find and solve the bugs or defects. Debugging is a process of troubleshooting for detecting and removing existing and potential issues in the network. So we can see all entries or we can restrict those entries. We can delete some problem with the switch. Then under status tab there is a system information where you can see there are ports in green which are connected and the status of those ports. Apart from that you can see SFP ports. So green means port is connected properly and number of the status of this port can easily be seen just by clicking the button. So this is a current status of the switch ports. So this LED indication like power, system connection and activity of all ports, up down status of all ports as well as configuration for devices such as system information. We can see the model number is C3024G, means it's a 24 port switch. With P means it is having the PoE and PoE++ capabilities on these 24 ports. 4X X stands for 10G uplink, which is backward compatible with 1G SFP also. We can edit the system name from switch to commando. We can select our default location, whatever we like to have, and can give any of the numbers. So this will be stored in the system. Apart from that, the serial number, MAC address of the device, then IP address. This IP address is the IP address of VLAN 1, which is a management VLAN, and this is the IP address of VLAN 1. We can also have VLAN 2, VLAN 3 IP addresses to access these switches. Then IPv6 addresses, system OID, system uptime, current time. So this can be changed manually or SNTP, or from computer we can directly load the time. It's a one-time process. Loader version, loader date, firmware version, firmware date. By default HTTP is enabled to access of the switch. Apart from that we can enable telnet, SSH, SNMP or HTTPS access of the switch. So this will enable the switch to get this will enable us to get the access of the switch by enabling these tabs. System time. System time option for configuration system time, time zone and daylight saving DST. We can manually set the time. So if I go on for manual, I can select whatever time zone, then time, and we can select the time accordingly and apply, and this will be saved. We can do it from computer, which is the easiest way. So from PC, the time can be received from PC by using the browser information. This is one time setting. This method of setting time from PC works both HTTP and HTTPS connection. So just by applying that, our time will be saved, and we can select our zone as per our requirement. Then SNTP. Time can be received from the SNTP servers globally or locally also by setting the IP addresses, or globally with the Google and other SNTP providers. So this time set by this SNMP ensures accurate network time synchronization of the device up to the millisecond by using SMTP server for clock source. Login message, whatever the log activity we do, so can be seen from this page. So you can enable or disable login on the log setting page and select whether to aggregate local message. So you can clear, you can refresh the logs. So in the port tab, you can view the port statistics. So link aggregation, you can create 8 link aggregation, and each lag will have 8 ports can be bind at max. So this link aggregation table can be seen from this tab, and MAC address table, which is a very important table, can be seen from this by clicking MAC address table. So COMMANDO C3000 series switch has 32K MAC address table size. So 32K entries can be there in this MAC address table. There are two types of MAC addresses, static and dynamic. Depending on their type, MAC addresses are either stored in static address table or dynamic address table along with VLAN and port information. Static addresses are configured by user and therefore they do not expire. This page describes how to add MAC address to the system. It covers a configured static MAC address and managing dynamic MAC address also. So it gives a varied information of VLANs, MAC addresses to that VLAN, and type of that port and the port number. You can clear and you can again see the table. Then network tab. This network tab has two things. One is DNS and others are hosts. So DNS is a system that translates domain name into the IP address. So I can create any domain name and I can assign any of the IP address to that domain name. So this will act as a DNS client. The switch resolves the domain name of COMMANDO to the IP address of 192.168.0.121 through the use of one or more configured DNS servers. Then hosts. You can add the DNS host, also known as the host record, in your domain that makes the connection between domain names and its matching IP address. So you can add the host and the IP address and apply. This way it's done. Port. So port setting gives a summary or detailed information on the switch ports. Using this page allows you to configure the port description, status, mainly speed, duplex settings, flow control setting can be configured with this page. Let us say I want to change for all ports. I can give the description of this port. I can select the speeds, duplexes and the flow control, and I can apply for each and every port. Then error disable. This page enables automatically reactivating a port that has been shut down, restrict, protect because of the error condition. So you can BPDU guard. So there are, you can enable it for various error disable things. So you can do that by just clicking and apply. Link aggregation. So link aggregation protocol or LACP is a part of IEEE 802.3AZ that enables you to bundle several physical ports together to form the single logical channel LAC. So this logical channel LAC can be having multiple ports binded. So if one link goes down, other will automatically, based on the load balance algorithm like MAC address or IP MAC addresses, we can see the link aggregation table. So if on the basis of this I can create the MAC, so I can aggregate these two ports and give this name as a commando lag. So I will create a static lag and I can have a, so this lag is created. If I connect, it will go up. So two switches can be connected with this G2 and G3 as a trunk port, and if one and both will be active at the same time, otherwise the spanning tree will disable one port of trunk port to another switch. So this is a very important creation in your switch, which generally the network administrator like to have multiple links to be combined between the critical infrastructures. So LACP, there is another tab. So let us say IP to MAC address based, I want to create LAC2. I will edit that. Go to this LACP tab and commando LACP. So this LACP traffic load balancing over the active ports of the lag is managed by MAC address and IP and MAC addresses. So I will say 6, 7, 8 and 9 ports are binded together. Apply this. So this status will come up if I configure another switch with the LACP with this lag, and they will come up, and we can have these 4 ports active at a time and having entire bandwidth of 4 Gbps. Then EEE. EEE page enables IEEE 802.3AZ energy efficient Ethernet EEE functions, which allows the power saving on link which are not active. So we can just go and edit that and enable this and apply it. EEE will be activated to save the power on your switch. So the inactive ports, no power will be delivered. Jumbo frame, this is also a very important feature. With the payload greater than the standard maximum transmission unit MTU of 1500 bytes, the local area network support 1 Gbps connection. So by enabling 10,000 bytes jumbo frame, we can enable that. Port setting, port security. So if we enable this port security and we can limit the rate of packet per second, this increase the limiting access on a port to user with specific MAC addresses. So the MAC address can be either dynamically learn or statistically configured. Port security monitors and receive learn packets. Ports are limited to users with specific MAC addresses. So we can apply this port security. We can take the ports and just enable it, and we can see there are 3 tabs: protect, restrict and shutdown. Protect means drop packet with unknown source MAC address until the secure MAC address are learned. Restrict means the port security violation, restrict the packet after security violation. This result in increase in the counter and causes SNMP notification to be generated. Then shutdown discards the packet from any unlearned source and shut down the ports. The port remains in shutdown until reactivated by no shutdown command, or we go manually and activate it, or until the device is rebooted. protected ports. The protected port feature provides layer 2 isolation between the interfaces. So if I click on this unprotected port, so I can, if I make the layer 2 isolation will be achieved. Then storm control. With storm control we can limit the number of frames entering in the switch. So we can have packet per second or kilobytes per second limiting of the speed which are entering and exiting the switch ports. So let us say packets per second, apply, and just take the ports. By default they are disabled, just enable, and you can change the speed as per requirement. So you can enable the broadcast, number of broadcast packet that can enter. So you can change the speed also according to the requirement and apply. Then PoE settings. So this COMMANDO C3000 series switch is having intelligent PoE, PoE++ with automated scheduling. It automates the requirement in the network as per board basis. So PoE utilization, even I connect 1, 2 and 3 80 devices, 1 AF device and 180 device, 30 watt device, still the power consumption is just 2% out of the total power budget of 520 watts. So this means that it is having advanced per port control for remote power management to automate on off as well as saving the power on particular ports. It also has the perpetual PoE with no power downtime to connected PDs. So PD device remain power on even when any software process is not running on the switch. This provides non-stop PoE, PoE plus power and continue to provide power during configuration and reboots. The PD will not lose power while reloading. The perpetual PoE feature of COMMANDO C3000 series switch provide a uninterrupted power to connected power devices even when the switch is booting to make it highly available network without any interruptions. With this scheduling of power, let us say I don't want for these 2 hours the power on this port. So I just apply and that will be done for that port. So for this Monday 12 to 1 AM the power will not be supplied. So this also will give a cutting edge that your automated PoE on off for specified timing per port. So this auto on off as per schedule time make them very intelligent switch. Then VLANs is simply an administrative defined subset of the switch port that are in the same broadcast domain. We can create the VLAN just by clicking and apply. So these VLANs will be created. If I want to change the name of the VLAN, just go to this tab and give the name as per requirement. So you can create the VLAN. Each VLAN must be configured with the unique VLAN ID. This switch support the VLAN from VLAN 2 to 4094. VLAN 1 is default VLAN for the switch having IP address 192.168.0.1. We can also create other VLAN with the VLAN IPs up to 16 VLANs. Then VLAN configuration, by default in VLAN 1 all ports are there in VLAN 1. We can assign some ports to other VLANs by editing this port's membership. So let us say if I want GE3 port to be in VLAN 2, I just have to click and make it tagged. So it will be assigned the membership of VLAN 2. Port setting is allowing us to use the port for hybrid access trunk tunnel ports for per VLAN ID of 1 to 4094. So we can enable the uplinks, TPIDs, ingress filter and everything with this port setting. Voice VLANs. Voice VLAN feature can help ensure that the sound quality of the IP phone is safeguarded from deteriorating when the data traffic on the port is high. So by clicking the property of the voice VLAN, we can enable any of the VLAN as a voice VLAN and can set the priority for this. Let us say 4. Apply. We have to select the ports for where we have to enable this voice VLAN and apply. So the members of that voice VLANs can be created, and we can have the voice OUI. Automatic assignment of the traffic to voice VLAN is done using the organizational unique identifier MAC addresses. The first 3 bytes of the MAC address contains a manufacturer ID and last 3 bytes contain the unique station ID. So by default 8 OUIs are there. We can add as per our requirement and can make it for another devices. Protocol VLANs processes the traffic based on the protocol. So this is also very important VLANs. You can use protocol based VLAN to define filtering criteria for untagged packets. If you do not change the port configuration or configure a protocol based VLAN, the switch assign the untagged packet to VLAN 1. So we can add the group ID, we can make any, and we can have the protocols. So every protocol has having the protocol value, and that value if we give and apply, the protocol VLANs can be created. So that created will be binded with the group binding. Then MAC VLANs. So we can add the MAC VLAN group. So MAC to VLAN mapping by configuring an entry in the MAC to VLAN table. An entry is specified using the source MAC address and the appropriate VLAN ID. MAC to VLAN configurations are shared across all ports of the device. So we can create a group ID, then MAC address and the mask and apply. We can also add the group bindings for that. Surveillance VLAN. Like voice VLAN, surveillance VLAN function ensures the quality of real-time video and monitoring and control without compromising the transmission of the conventional network data. This is a special feature of COMMANDO C3000 series switch. So we can create this surveillance VLAN, we can enable the property, we can assign the priority, apply, and we can take any port which is of that and just enable, and that will be assigned to that port. Then GVRP. With this surveillance VLAN, IP surveillance camera of multiple manufacturers having different OUI can add. So we can add different OUI as per our requirement, like Hikvision and other cameras for surveillance purpose. GVRP page displays the information regarding GARP VLAN registration protocol frame that were sent or received from a port. GVRP sends standard base layer 2 network protocol for automatic configuration of VLAN information on switches in the network. So if we are having multiple switches in the network, one switch is created and enabled with GVRP having multiple VLAN, that information is shared throughout the network with the another switches with the help of the GVRP protocol. On the ports, just we have to enable the state and apply. Then members of the GVRP switches will be shown here. and then we can see the statistics based on the port based statistics for this GVRP. MAC address table. This MAC address table, we can have the dynamic MAC address, static MAC address, filtering address, and port security address. So this dynamic MAC address in COMMANDO C3000 series L3 switch are the data link layer devices which maintains a MAC table to forward frame to the destination. The MAC address table entry on the switch is created either statistically or dynamically. The dynamic address table is 32K of size, all of the MAC address that can be obtained from incoming traffic to the switch. Static MAC address are entered manually into the MAC address table. So this I can add MAC address, VLAN and the port number, and it will be added. Filtering address. MAC address filtering allows you to define the list of devices and only those devices on your LAN. So you can make a filter table also, so the illegal users cannot get access of this switch. Port security addresses. By using the port security, the network administrator can associate specific MAC address with the interface. So spoofing of MAC address will be avoided by this feature. Then spanning tree. Spanning tree is basically to avoid the loops or broadcast storms in the network. So STP protect a layer 2 broadcast domain from broadcast storms by selectively setting links to standby mode to prevent loop. There are 3 flavors. We can enable any of the STP, RSTP, MSTP with path cost long and short. So previously short path cost is up to 1G or 10G is having the same path cost. Now with the long path cost, for 100G also we can have the path cost of 20. Port settings, we can, after enabling that, let us say I want to enable RSTP, I will just apply that. Then port setting, I will enable the ports for RSTP. So I will edit this to enable this port for RSTP. Go for some ports 2 and 3. So the port role will be seen on this. So STP is responsible for identifying link in the network and shutting down the redundant one and preventing possible network load. RSTP is also having a failure proof mechanism where you are having the backup links which will take over the failed links. MSTP will allow you for VLAN switching device to use multiple spanning trees, allowing traffic belonging to different VLAN to flow over potentially different path within the LAN. It builds upon the advancement of the RSTP with its decreased time for network respan. It detects the layer 2 loops and attempt to mitigate them by preventing involved port from transmitting data. Since the loop exists on per layer 2 domain based VLAN, a situation occurs where there is a loop in VLAN A and no loop in VLAN B if both VLANs on the port X. So this MST instances can help you to mitigate the issue of very big broadcast domain. It segregates to the very smaller broadcast domain with the help of VLAN mapping to the spanning tree. Then statistics. So we can see how much MST, how the topological chain notification and configuration BPDUs are sent. That will be seen on with the help of these statistics. Then discovery. This discovery tab is helping us to have the link layer discovery protocol LLDP, which is a vendor neutral protocol used by network devices for advertising their identity, capability and neighbors on the local area network. So we can enable this property. Let us say I want to make this 4 port capable of sending their information like transmit these capabilities to other devices. And management IP also. So I will just apply. We can add the MED network policy, which is related to the set of configuration settings for specific real-time applications such as voice or video. The media endpoint device should send its traffic as specified in the network policy that it receives. Network policies are associated with the port on LLDP MED port setting page. So I can have the applications like voice signaling and many other. We can select the VLAN, we can have the priority set for that, we can have the DHCP value and apply. So we can select the port, edit, and we can have this location inventory and coordinates and apply. We can also have the packet view for each port. So how much transmitted, how much received. This is the local information of our switch. So what is the capability of our switch, bridge and router. So COMMANDO C3000 series switch is having these both capabilities. We can select the port and can have the detail about that port. We can see the neighbors. So GE23 port is connected with another thing that will be shown, and these are the statistics that are exchanged between those ports. DHCP feature with COMMANDO C3000 series L3 switch, we can have multiple IPv4 DHCP pools for each VLAN. So DHCP pools and interface for individual VLANs will support IPv4, IPv6 DHCP client, relay option 82 and DHCP snooping. So this DHCP is widely used to automatically assign the IP address on and other network configuration parameter to the network devices, enhancing the utilization of IP addresses. So this DHCP server which we create in this switch will have dynamically assign IP address, default gateway, DNS information to the DHCP clients in the network, which will allow this switch to become a DHCP server to assign IP address to PCs, computer, laptops from pre-selected range numbers for a particular network. So let us start with the property. We can enable this property. We will select the ports, enable. We can have the IP pool setting. Let us say for VLAN 1, we can have these pools for each and every VLAN which we create. So let us start with this IP address range, DNS IP primary and secondary, this, and apply. So this pool, we can also add the group IP address and then apply this. So this way it is created, and if I connect that switch with any of the PC laptop wanting for the DHCP IP address, from that pool the IP address will be shared. Then multicasting. With multicast, we can have one to many or many to many distributions. So this multicasting property we can flood, drop, forward to the router port with the help of multicast forward method like IPv4 DMAC VID, deep VID, or IPv6 DMAC VID or deep VID. So multicast is a group communication where data transmission is addressed to a group of devices simultaneously. Multicast can be one-to-many or many-to-many distribution. So with this property, we can have multicast packet replicated in the network at the points where path diverges. So multicast include internet group management protocol, independent multicast, protocol independent multicast, and multicast VLAN registration. So group addresses, we can add the group address for VLAN 1, whatever VLAN we, and we can add one of the addresses for this port. So it's very simply we can create the group address which provide limited guidelines on how the multicast address space can be divided and used privately by an enterprise. So the administrative scope IPv4 multicast space is a range of addresses from 239.0.0.0 to 239.255.255.255. Then router port. With router port, we have to select the VLANs, then version and port number, and apply. So the multicast router M router port is a port that connects to a multicast router. The device include multicast router ports numbers when it forward the multicast streams and IGMP MLD registration messages. Forward all, add. So we can select this. So the multicast forward all page allows you to choose which interface receives the multicast stream in which VLANs. Throttling. This page will display the IGMP throttling configuration for all the interface on the COMMANDO C3000 switch or for a specified interface. I can select all or a specified interface. Can edit and I can deny or replace. Filtering profile. A multicast filter profile permits or denies a range of multicast group to be learned when the joining group. So I can create a profile, start IP, end IP, action, allow or deny and apply. Filter binding. Multicast filtering to receive only message to a multicast address assigned to its own host at the link layer level. The filter is set when the host joins the multicast group. So I can select and I can enable this filter and apply. Then IGMP. So we can have this IGMP property enabled for IGMP version 2 and version 3. So this allows snooping switch to forward multicast traffic intelligently. You can block even more multicast traffic and reduce the risk of denial of service attacks with the help of this IGMP version 2 and version 3. So you have to apply and select the VLAN and edit the state to enable, and you can have the various parameters set for this and apply. Querier. The IGMP snooping querier is used to support layer 2 multicast domain of snooping switches in the absence of multicast router. So we can make it enable for this version 2 and version 3. Then statistics. This page gives a summary of IGMP statistics, membership queries, number of membership queries sent and received, group leave numbers and group leave messages sent and received. Then MLD snooping. MLD multicast listener discovery snooping constrain the flooding of IPv6 multicast traffic on VLAN. Just like IGMP version 2 and 3 for IPv4, MLD will work for IPv6. So you can enable the MLD version 1 or 2 as per requirement, apply, and then any of the port edit, enable the states and apply after changing this parameter. So the MLD runs on layer 2 device as a IPv6 multicast constraining mechanism to improve the multicast forwarding efficiency. It creates layer 2 multicast forward entries from MLD message that are exchanged. Then MVR. MVR multicast VLAN registration designed for distribution of multicast traffic on a dedicated multicast VLAN across a segregated access network, while allowing subscribers who are on different VLAN to join and leave the multicast group carried in the multicast VLAN. The multicast VLAN registration enables more efficient distribution of IPTV multicast streams across an Ethernet ring based layer 2 networks. So you have to enable the property, apply, then port setting, whatever port you want to edit as a receiver source, and immediately and apply, and you can have the group addresses. So MVR is not enabled by default, so you can have these addresses to explicitly configure the MVLAN and assign the range of multicast group address to it. The VLAN carries the MVLAN traffic for configured multicast group. You then configure other VLANs to MVR receiver, VLANs that receives multicast streams from the MVLAN. Routing. This is a layer 3 switch having routing capability, having RIP and OSPF routes. Apart from static and dynamically learned routes, so COMMANDO C3000 series L3 switch supports routing protocol which includes static route, dynamically run route with the protocol like RIP version 1, version 2, OSPF version 2 and 3. Apart from load balancing and constructing scalable LAN, it supports 32K MAC address table, 12K IP routing table entries and 12K host routes. And dynamic routing is supported by the hardware with maximum performance and compatible to the top brand switches. So by default VLAN 1 interface is created with IP address. We can have other VLAN 2 interface with, let us say, this IP address with mask. So we can create the VLAN interfaces very easily with this switch. Then IPv4 routes. So I have already created this route. This is a default route for destination network 192.168.0.100 where my internet router is connected, and that is that will provide us the internet for this device. I can also have the static route configuration. Let us say I want to reach to 192.168.1.0 network with subnet mask 255.255.255.0 and next hop IP address is 192.168.0.100. That route also I can create. So we can create static and default route as per our requirement in the switch. Then ARP, we can have the aging time as per our requirement. So VLAN 1 we can age out. IPv6 management interfaces, we can create enable the IPv6 unicast routing. We can create the stateless or stateful IP addresses for VLANs. Let us say I want to have this IP address with prefix length 64. So with this I can create very easily IP addresses. I can see the IPv6 routing table. I can see the neighbor connected to this routing table. RIP, you have to just click enable, apply, and add the network IDs. Let us say 192.168.0.0 is my own network with subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Apply. So we have to enable this and give our own network IDs, and this will be enabled. And if other devices is enabled with the RIP, automatically it will create the routes will be shown in IP routing table here with RIP learn routes. Similarly, OSPF route management, we have to click on OSPF. Just we have to enable and add the area ID like 0.0.0.0 for area 0, our IP address and mask, and apply. So this way is a very simple way to configure OSPF and RIP with the help of COMMANDO C3000 series switch. Security tab will give radius. So here we can create any of the radius server. So this page allows a user to add, edit, and delete radius server settings and modify default parameter of the radius server. So we can change the parameter. Remote authorization dial in user service server provide a centralized 802.1x or MAC based network access control. The device can be configured to a radius client that can use a radius server to provide centralized security as a radius server. So you can have any of the IP address and the priority set, and the method. I have selected that method all login and 802.1x. You can have your own choice. Similarly, I can have a TechAS Plus terminal access controller access control system plus that allows the remote access server to forward a user's logon password to an authentication server to determine whether access can be allowed to a given system or not. So let us say I am having a server named this with priority 10, and it is very simple to create TechAS and radius and AAA facility with the help of GUI. Then AAA server is a server program that handles the user request for access to computer and resources. So I can create a method, let us say commando, with method 1 local, method 2 radius, method 3 radius, and method 4. So this will be created, new method. By default this is a method and sequence is local for giving us access of this switch. Then login authentication, by default is the program. We can change this for console. Let us say I want this, apply. So this is a very easily we can have the AAA configured. So AAA method list can be used to assign the list of method for authentication, authorization, and accounting. The method list can be used to specify the order. If the authentication service is not available or was not successful from the first method, second method can be used, and so on. Then login authentication. So with this you can assign the authentication method to various management access method such as SSH, Telnet, HTTP, HTTPS. The authentication can be performed locally or on a radius TechAS server. Login authenticate with the username password, that is a part of configuration of a security appliance. This authentication manager property, we can have 802.1x MAC based and web based. So we just have to click and enable MAC based format and guest VLANs and all, and apply, and select the ports, edit them, and give MAC based, web based authentication, multiple host, single host, MAC based or web based, or both methods. So just you have to enable this and apply. This will give you the implementation that delegates the responsibility for authentication to one or more authentication providers. So authentication manager port setting page control all the authentication methods such as 802.1x MAC authentication. It also handles network authentication request and enforces authentication per port basis. The authentication manager maintains the operational data for all ports based network connection, and this can be seen with the help of this session command. So we can also have the MAC based local account, so we can create force authorized, phone unauthorized and web based account, username, password, and we can assign the VLANs for that, and we can see the sessions here. DOS. So denial of service attack is an attempt to make a switch unavailable to its user. DOS attack saturates the switch with external communication requests so that it cannot respond to legitimate traffic. These attacks usually lead to a switch CPU overload. So denial of service attack is a malicious attempt to overwhelm the switch with the traffic in order to disrupt its normal operation. A denial of service attack occurs when legitimate users are unable to access and send traffic or other network resource due to the actions of the malicious attacker. It costs an organization both time, money, while their resources and services are inaccessible. By default, this switch is very secure with all the DOS enabled. You can change the setting by just clicking. Port setting, you have to apply this to those ports. If I say enable, this DOS will be enabled and the many attacks can be disallowed in your network. Then AC. Then dynamic ARP inspection is a security feature that rejects invalid and malicious ARP packets. The feature prevents a class of man-in-middle attack where an unfriendly station intercepts the traffic for other station by poisoning the ARP caches of its unsuspecting neighbor. The miscreant sends the ARP request or response mapping another station's IP address to own MAC addresses. So this property we have to apply ARP inspection and then go to the port and trust source MAC address destination on the basis of IP addresses and limit the rate. So dynamic ARP inspection relies on DHCP snooping. DHCP snooping listens the DHCP message exchange and build a binding database of valid MAC address, IP address and VLAN interface. When DI is enabled, the switch drops the ARP packet if the sender MAC address and sender IP address and VLAN interface doesn't match in the DHCP snooping binding database. In statistics, we can see display the statistic for forward drop MAC violation failures of IP. Then DHCP snooping property. We can enable this property by clicking here and can select the VLANs, apply this DHCP snooping. It's the technique applied to improve the security of the DHCP infrastructure. When the DHCP server are allocating IP address to the clients on the LAN, DHCP snooping can be configured on the LAN switch to prevent malicious or malformed DHCP traffic or rough DHCP servers to disallow sending the IP addresses. So with this DHCP snooping property, which acts as a firewall between untrusted host and trusted DHCP server, snooping prevent false DHCP response and monitor clients. They can prevent man-in-middle attacks and authenticate host devices. Then statistics. So this displays the DHCP snooping packet statistic which give information about trusted ports. Option 82, feature enhances the validation security. So you can user defined validation security and apply, and you can select the port whatever and enable keep, drop or replace. Option then IP source guard. IP source guard is a security feature that restricts the IP traffic on untrusted layer 2 ports by filtering traffic based on the DHCP snooping binding database or manually configure IP source binding. This feature helps prevent IP snooping attack when a host tries to snoop and use the IP address of another host. With the help of this port setting, traffic coming on the port will be dropped unless there is a DHCP snooping entry to allow it. So we can edit this, enable, apply. IMPV bindings. So IMPV is IP MAC port VLAN binding. IMPV. We can add this binding on per port basis. We can assign the VLANs and MAC addresses and IP addresses. So the IP source guard entries that learn by the DHCP snooping or statistically created by the user, which these users will be only allowed. Then save database. We can save this database of IP source guard to the flash or TFTP server by using these tabs. We can have the file name, we can have the IP addresses, and we can created this database. Then ACL. In COMMANDO C3000 series switch, we can create L2, L3, L4 access control list. Firstly, we have to create the access control list and then apply to the interfaces by this page. So let us say I want to create a MAC ACL, and with the MAC ACE having sequence number 1, deny, let us say VLAN 2 all traffic. This MAC L2 ACL will be created. After that, I want to create another ACL called as XYZ ACL for IPv4 based ACL having sequence number 3, and it will deny the protocol ICMP for, let us say, destination IP address this with subnet mask this. Apply. And I want to have the IPv6 ACL name ABCD. Apply. And then create the ACE having sequence number 10, deny protocol UDP. So this way I have created the ACL. This doesn't mean that they are active unless and until I bind it to the interfaces. So I will bind it to the interfaces. Let us say these two interfaces which is connected to outside. So I will just have to select these two and apply. This way it's very simple to create ACLs which will filter the traffic in the network. So this ACL binding page will have MAC, IPv4 and IPv6 access list. An access control list is an order list of classification, filters and action. Each single classification rule together with its action is called as access control element ACE. Each ACE is made up of filters that distinguish the traffic groups and associated actions. A single ACL can contain one or more ACEs which is matched against the content of incoming frames. Either a deny or permit action is applied to the frame whose content match the filters. Then QoS. This switch is having advanced QoS feature for traffic prioritization including port based 802.1p L4 L3 based L4 L3 DSCP based, and this QoS will optimize voice and video application as well as some mission critical applications. So we have to enable the QoS. We can have the COS, DSCP. COS is there to based QoS mapping. Then DSCP is layer 3 but with multiple levels. COS and DSCP, any option we can select. We have to select the ports, edit, and we can set the COS value for, and we can enable the DSCP by applying this. We can also change the queue mappings. So queue scheduling is the methodology of the network traffic based upon quality of service, where the packets are mapped to internal forwarding queues based on the QoS information, which are then serviced according to the queuing scheme. So this is our queuing scheme. COS mapping, we can also have the COS mapping as well as queue to COS mapping. DSCP mapping. So differentiate service code point is a packet header value that can be used to request high priority or best effort delivery for traffic. DSCP mapping is used to determine traffic classification for the network data. So we can select this as per our requirement and apply. IP precedence mapping allows you to specify the class of service. You can use the 3 precedence bit in type of service field of IP version 4 header for the purpose traffic classified according to the user IP precedence value mapped. So it's very easy to configure QoS with the help of commando switches. Then diagnostic. In QoS we also can rate limit the number of packets that can be coming or going out. Coming means ingress and outgoing means egress. So we can select those ports. We can remit the rate according to our choice for incoming and outgoing traffic and just apply. So this queue scheduling algorithm, we can have the strict policy queue or weighted fair queuing policy for ingress and egress queue. So we can have for each queue we can change the packets which can be sent and receive and apply. Then diagnostic. So we can enable the console login message. By default it's a informational. We can have the emergency or alert. So these messages will be displayed on the CLI axis of your switch. Okay. So RAM login also, at the start I have shown the login buffers. So there also information is there. We can change that to the alert. So flash logging also we can change the login. So these user logs or diagnostic logs file records the service processes, flows and fault information. The log is sent to the log buffer, console and terminal monitors. So or remote server which you can create. So you can add a remote server where you can send the log, whatever log you want to send, let us say notice or error logs you want to send, and apply. So that logs will be sent to that server. Then mirroring. Mirroring is a monitoring tool where you can monitor the traffic on particular port. So 4 mirror sessions can be created with this switch. We can edit one mirror session. Let us say I want to monitor with the port GE6 and I want to monitor these 2 users. incoming and outgoing both. Apply. So I can monitor these things. Then ping. Ping stands for packet internet growth. The connection it tests the connection between the network nodes by sending packet to the host and measure the round trip time and the success and failure of that packets. So let us say I want to have a ping with commandonetworks.com. So it will resolve to the IP address and find out how much transmit packet, receive packet, packet loss, round trip delays, everything it will find out with the help of host name. I can ping with various host name, I can ping with IPv4 addresses, I can ping with IPv6 addresses. So ping is a basic troubleshooting tool available with every network engineer. So this network is not reachable. Let us try with the internal network. So let us say I want to ping with 0.10, 192.168.0. It is successful. 1.1 ping, it's also success. I want to ping the Google server. It's also success. So it will show which websites are reachable and which websites are not reachable with the help of this command. Let us say I want to ping with traceroute. Traceroute is used to display the route path each node has passed to reach the tested host and measure the transmit delays of packet across entire path of the host. Let us say I want to traceroute to google.com. So with this we will find out how it is traced. I think we have not set the DNS, that's why it's not giving the result. We will directly go with the IP addresses. Apply. It will find out how it can be reached to that google.com with traceroute option. Then copper test. These are the very important tests where we can see the length of the connected ports. So let us say if I want to see what ports I have connected to GP1, GP5. I want to know their length, how much copper distance they are away from the switch. So I think it is very nearby to the switch. Then fiber modules. So I have inserted a 10G SFP to T4 port of the switch, and it is showing temperature, voltage, current, output, input power, and insert or loss of signal. So you can see the details also for that particular port. So you can see the capability, then name of the port 10G base LR, wavelength, manufacturer, and apart from that temperature, voltage, current, output power, and input power. Then UDLD. This property will help to remove the loops in due to the unidirectional transmission of the packets in the fiber. So unidirectional link occur when traffic is transmitted between neighbor in one direction only, which can cause spanning tree topology loops. So this, by applying this on the ports, let us say this port edit if I apply normal aggressive, this will be activated, so that port will be prevented from looping. Then neighbors are find out with the help of this neighbor table. Then management. So user accounts can be by default admin is the username and password is commando. We can change the username, create a new username, let us say commando. Password I want to say commando 123, commando 123, and I can give privilege as a user. So apply. So that commando user will be created. So this is having, if I create with the admin privilege, it will have all the access like this. If I create with the user privilege, I will show you the very limited access where you can just monitor the ports. This much facility, status only you can see. You can also create new admin and can change this default admin name, so the attacker will not use these things for his malicious things. Management services, by default HTTP is enabled. You can enable other services and can take the access. You can apply this. You can have the putty program. You can run any of the putty program. And can have a telnet SSH sessions 192.168.0.1 open, and username is admin, password is commando, and you can take the CLI access and can see the commands which can be used to configure this device using CLI. So this page is very important, managing service, from where you can select the telnetting, SSH, HTTP, HTTPS, SNTP. If I disable this, enable and apply, that connection will be not forming in the network. Then management ACE, we can select, create any of the management ACE, and we can activate that management ACL. We can have the AC, so we can have all services available. Port GE2, I can apply this IPv4 address. So this is an added advantage. We can apply after creating that, we can activate that, so that port, that functionality can only access the switch. That much security we can create with this Commando C3000 series L3 switch. Then firmware upgrade or backup image through HTTP and HTTPS processes. So you can upgrade backup with TFTP, HTTP. You can choose the file. There is a feature called as active image and backup image. So this dual image feature is configured so that your switch will be saved from any network software related failures. So network administrator can have the dual image in the switch. So one image will be active image and other as a backup image. So you can change this image 1, image 0, and accordingly you can have that image loaded in next time when you reboot the switch. You can go to the configuration upgrade, so you can upgrade or backup the device. You can upgrade and you have to just choose the file. You can backup from HTTP. It's very simple. Let us say I want to apply, so that will be downloaded directly and that can be saved easily. Save configuration, you can save any of the configuration. Let us say I want to save the backup configuration, apply, and it will be done. Then SNMP. SNMP is a very important simple network management protocol which helps network administrator to graphically view the performance of your networking devices, ports. With SNMP, network manager can view modified network device information and troubleshoot according to the notifications sent by those devices in timely manner. So you can add the views and this OID subtrees and the groups. Let us say group A with SNMP version 2, write, notify, apply. So this group A will be created. So C3000 series support 3 SNMP version, SNMP version 1, SNMP version 2C and SNMP version 3. Then we can create a community, we can add the community, let us say XYZ community with basic read, write, apply. So this is very easily we can add the things. Then we can add the user. So user specify the SNMP username on the host that connect to the SNMP agent and displays the SNMP user. So we can add this. Then engine ID. The engine ID is only used by SNMP version 3 entities. To uniquely identify them, each SNMP agent maintains local information that is used in SNMP version 3 message exchanges. Then trap events. So you can trap the authentication failure, link up down, cold start, warm start, and apply that. So that will be shown. Then notification. So we can add the notification table to any of the IP addresses for any of the things and apply. So that user will get the notification. Then RMON. RMON is a remote network monitoring together with SNMP system allows network manager to monitor remote network devices efficiently. RMON reduces traffic flows between NMS and the managed devices, which is convenient to manage large network. So it is having the statistics such as total number of packets on the network segment during certain time period, total number of correct packets that are sent to the host based on the SNMP protocol. The NMS collect network data by communicating with the agent. Then history. You can create RMON history for an interface to gather information about network traffic within that interface. Events. An RMON event is the action that occurs when the associated RMON alarm is triggered. When alarm event occurs, then it can be configured to generate a log event. Then last thing is restore to factory default. So it will erase and remove all current configuration and the device will go to the factory default setting, and we have to do it twice and reboot the device to get us factory default setting. Hope you understand the COMMANDO C3000 L3 Plus which is switch GUI efficiently with this demonstration. Thank you so much.